Hi. Now, I'm not a natural at getting up early in the morning. It doesn't come instinctively to me. I just know it's so important. If you're interested in photography, the most magical light is the first hour of the day or the last hour of the day. So, unfortunately, that means getting up early, time after time. Now, when I first got here this morning, this lake was covered in mist. You couldn't see the water, and I had to wait probably about 30 minutes, I think, in total. It started to clear from this end, so I could start to see some birds, and I was scanning every bird I could see. I'm looking for a black-necked grebe, because there's been one here for the last 2 days. Now, it might have moved on, it's only passing through, but I scanned the water at this end, and as the mist slowly cleared, I can start to see into the left-hand edge more and more, but I just got to the point of thinking, it's not here, I'm going to give up. And then the last little bit of mist lifted, and that bird must have been over by the reeds, because there it was, I could see the black-necked grebe. Now, to photograph it, well, the sun's going to come up over that edge. You could see that, it was just coming over the edge at the time, so I've got to be at that end of the lake and just sit there against the bank. The vegetation is a bit thick in some places around this lake. You can get around about 60% of it. Unfortunately, the end where I want to be, which is the east end where the sun's rising, there's good access to it, so I can get into that spot. So I've chosen my spot. First of all, I've got a bit of a gap in the reeds. Secondly, the sun is coming behind me. And then, very important, nice colours in the water. I'm picking the spot where the reflection is of the hedge, and it's a lovely green colour. Over there in that corner, it's a bit on the white side, so this is the better place to be. I'm not making this assessment on where the bird's going to be because I don't know yet, I've got to watch, but I see no reason why it won't come over to this corner as well as that corner. So photographically this is the best place. And then the other very important thing is I'm down at the bottom of the slope. First of all, I get a low angle, but the worst thing you could do is stand on the top of the slope where you're silhouetted against the skyline. Now, black-necked grebes are usually very tame, so I might not have a problem. It might come very close to me, even if I stand on the bank. But that doesn't matter, that's just the black-necked grebe. What if an otter comes along? I don't want to be silhouetted. Anything else is going to come along as well, so I'm going to get low down against the bank. So now I just have to sit and wait. I can see the bird just about with my naked eye over there. Just got to wait for it to drift over this side, and I see no reason why it won't do that. When I first started, the sun hadn't got over the bank at all, and it was a lovely soft light, but very important, the water is still. There's no breeze first thing in the morning. That's when you get the nice reflections. A few other birds to keep me entertained while I'm waiting, tufted ducks. And there was a lot of little grebes too, and quite noisy. They tend to be a very vocal species, and a mute swan. The first bird watcher has arrived. I'm surprised there's not more bird watchers. I thought this would be very popular. And the black-necked grebe came close enough. You can just about make out a bit of mist here. It's just taking the edge off the sharpness. But 10 minutes later, the air is clear. A problem I find when photographing a bird like this is it's a one-shot session. Other than a bird floating about on the water, what else am I going to get? Different colours in the water. Here is coming into that green reflection I mentioned. I love the way the ripples come out there. So I want to have a go at that in slow motion. So now I'm shooting at 240 frames per second, HD. So this means it's about 10 times slow. And I'm just after those ripples in the water as the bird dives.
Very noticeable that the bird spends most of its time with its back to me, and I always put that down to they don't want to be looking into the light. They often turn around and face me just before they dive, but the vast majority of the time the head is turned away. And I would be the same. If I'm walking in the countryside, I'm usually turning my head away from the light. You can see the sun now has come above the bank, the bird is well lit, but it's still really just one shot, just a grebe floating on the water and diving every few seconds. This is quite a frequent situation. Because I'm on a bank, the bank is sloping down. I can't use my stool. It's just sloping too much to be able to put the stool in position. So I'm having to sit on the floor. The floor is damp and cold, and I'm getting a bit wet below. Now I've got a camping mat in the car, but I've always said you can have all the gear, but you've got to have it here. The little grebes were mostly at the far end. This was the only occasion one came close enough. And the blackneck grebe was in front of me long enough to take stills pictures and video. And in slightly different coloured water, which is important to try and get some variety.
Photography wise, I'm using the OM1 camera with 150 to 400mm lens with its built-in 1.25 extender. Gives me the equivalent of a 1000mm lens on a full chip camera. Not that I need it. I'm not putting the extender in. The bird is coming very, very close to me. My ISO has been 1600 all morning. The shutter speed has varied between 200th to 4,000th of a second, but you can't tell the difference. They all look the same. They're all sharp. I'm on a solid tripod. I've got no camera movement at all. I doubt I've taken a picture today that isn't sharp. And then the aperture is wide open because it's very rare I close my aperture down anymore. I get 2 extra stops of depth of field with this camera. With my full chip cameras, the Canon in particular, I was always closing down to f8 to give me that bit more depth of field, so I covered a bird from one end of the bird to the other. Now I very rarely have to do that. I'm always surprised how observant some of you are, that you notice when I change some of my kit. So we're looking at a new tripod head here. It's a Miller tripod head, and so I'll just show you a short film that I made about 2 tripod heads that I bought recently. I've been using a Benro S8 for about 3 years, and now I've got a Manfrotto. Back to a Manfrotto because I've had lots of these over the years. This is a Manfrotto 501. The Benro was fine. I rated it about the same as the cheaper Manfrottos, 501, 502, 503. Although they keep using those numbers, the Manfrotto heads change a lot. This doesn't look anything like the original Manfrotto 501 that I owned years ago. But the Benro lasted about 3 years, and then it just wore out. You couldn't tighten it up anymore. I sent it to Benro for servicing. They couldn't service it. They don't keep spare parts. Something to bear in mind if you buy Benro. I have had Manfrotto heads serviced in the past, but it's possible with all the different changes that they don't have spare parts for some of the older 501s either. But this is from someone who uses their cameras a lot. I'm not that surprised that I've worn out a tripod head that cost £100. It's not likely to last forever. Some of these tripod heads cost thousands of pounds. Anyway, for me, it's Manfrotto 501 is nothing like the proper video heads that I've got, but it does the job, especially for stills photography. I've always liked video heads for stills photography. I've had several gimbals over the years. I buy them, I sell them, I just don't like them. Much happier following things about on a video head. And now that I shoot a lot of video, it's even more important to me. But this is nothing like as good as the proper video heads I have when I'm shooting videos. Nothing to do with smoothness. They're all very smooth as you move them about, but they're not as stable. You get a lot more vibration from them and that awful creep thing. So I've still got my rubber band on here, what do they call it? Bungee cord on here. So I don't have to touch the handle when I'm panning, when I'm following a bird around. But sometimes I just want to stop and let the camera stay there and keep it running and take my hands away. No vibration if I'm not touching the handle. But with the cheaper heads you get creep. So as you let go, the camera just moves a fraction. only with these big telephoto lenses on. I mean, we've got the equivalent of a 1000mm lens here, so there's that creep. So the Manfrotto 501 that came off eBay secondhand, it looks immaculate, it looks like it's never been used. But while I was searching for tripod heads on eBay, I came across this one as well. This is a Miller Compass 12. Now, I've got a Satchler video head, a very expensive one, and I've got a Vision Blue. This Miller head, I fancied a Miller head for a while. This is a Compass 12, it cost me £300 off eBay. I don't know how much they were new, but a lot more than that I would expect. But so far, this is the best video head I've had. It's a proper video head. It's got the counterbalance built into it, and not only is it silky smooth, the Manfrotto is silky smooth, but when I stop pushing and I let go, it's exactly where I left it. It doesn't creep at all. The counterbalance doesn't work perfectly. It's okay at this sort of angle. It will stay exactly where I leave it. But if I go down to an extreme, then it tends to come back on me. But it's a lot better than anything else I've ever had. Put my bungee rope onto this one as well. I'm getting the most stable pictures so far from this tripod head. It's a bit heavy for carrying about, but it's one of these that sits in a bowl on the tripod, so you can make sure you've got level horizons.
Thanks for watching.